reason why we see some of these changes. If we will not say NPR increased by 6% before we saw this latest inflation drop, let's say 5%, because before this latest decision, it will have been 5% over the past, what is it, 7 or 8, 9 months. And we saw that 0.13%. And I'll ask the same question in another light. Do we need to be doing something more such that if we're seeing the interest rates at least being tightened by that much, 5%, we can also see some commensurate drop in inflation? If 5% is too much to ask, well, let's even say 3%. What may we be missing here, Mr. Oyedele?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, a good starting point for me is to interrogate what is the problem we have and what are the prescriptions that we are trying to administer. So yes, I do agree. Inflation is something you have to control. One of the primary objectives of the central bank or monetary authorities more broadly is price stability. Because if you allow inflation to get out of hand, what that means is there will be crisis, actually. People will get into poverty, cost of living will become unbearable, and it can bring down any government, even if it's a dictatorship. So it's something that government wants to control. But the important question you ask is, so this interest rate that we have been increasing consistently over the past months, now 600 basis points, yet we see only a very slight moderation in inflation rates. So what are the issues? So in my view, if you think about what's causing our inflation, even the CBN, the MPC, I should say, alluded to this. So you have things like energy costs. So the cost of energy, particularly diesel, has gone up, by around 400% in the past 12 months. We are dealing with scarcity of petrol now as we speak across the country. Not only is that increasing, the cost, it also means that you can't even get enough for you to do production, and that reduces capacity. So anything that reduces productivity and production is also adding to inflation. And then on another hand as well, you have cost-push inflation where, logistic cost is rising, input costs are rising because of exchange rate problem and scarcity. A lot of people who import, inputs and materials are relying on the parallel market at about 750 naira to the dollar. So these are adding to the pressure on inflation. Now, when you raise interest rates like the MPR, we need to think about it, differently. On one hand, it's a reference rate. It does not even mean that's the interest rate that people would pay. So as we speak today, the interest rate on treasury bills, the yield, is around 2 to 4%. The interest rate on savings, if you have a savings account, is around 4%. Even on government bond, you are talking about around 11 to 13%. Government is even planning to issue the 40-year bond to securitize the ways and means, and they are looking at 9%. So you have been raising the MPR, but it's not reflecting in the market. And the question again is, in many countries where you use interest rates more effectively, those economies rely so much on credit. So imagine today that you have a mortgage, for your house where you are paying repayments on a monthly basis. When interest rate goes up, the amount you have to pay also goes up. Now, the other thing that you also find is because you have the credit in your hand and the interest rate you are paying on it is higher, you reduce your consumption and it starts to moderate, inflation rate. And those who have surplus money and they are not relying on credit, when the interest rate is going up, that means the amount they can earn on their savings goes up. So the propensity to save also increases. When you combine these together, you will then reduce consumption and demand and then begin to moderate inflation. But that is not the case in Nigeria. So we don't have credit, almost zero. And then people don't really have surpluses. And even when they do, who is inspired by saving at 4% when inflation is around 20%? So these reasons are the explanation, in my view, why even though we continue to increase the MPR, the impact on inflation has been almost insignificant.